This is Real Life with Deb Waterbury, a real show for real people with real issues. And now, here's your host, Dr. Deb Waterbury.
Hello there. Welcome to this episode of Real Life with Deb Waterbury. We're in our relationship series, and I'm really excited. For the very first time on the show, I have my very good friend, Heidi Meredith. Hi, Heidi.
Hi, Deb.
You can talk now.
Wasn't sure if I was supposed to say anything.
I told her just a minute ago she had to applaud whenever I finished speaking, so she was probably wondering if it was time to do that. Heidi and I have known each other for, 28 years.
Yeah,
a long time. Yes.
She's older than me, though.
No. We won't even discuss that. Heidi lives in Colorado, and I go there quite often. Obviously, she comes here, and we both share an experience in both having two sons.
Yes.
Both military wives, and we both have two sons. So when we were in this relationship series, we were discussing who might be the best person to talk about this particular topic. And of course, Heidi came to my brain for a couple of reasons, because we can talk forever and because we both have two boys.
Yes.
And so I thought that since this one show is called Relationship with Sons, this week we want to talk about that. I thought it'd be best to talk to somebody who knew a little bit about that.
And I was so excited when you asked me.
Yes. So we're going to talk then about our relationships with sons. And, Heidi, you know this as well. Any of you out there who have boys know that there really is a lot of the same things that you deal with whenever you're dealing with a daughter, but dealing with a son from a mama's standpoint is very different.
It is.
Than dealing with a daughter from a mama's standpoint. I mean, and we don't have the daughter part, except for now that we have daughter-in-laws.
Yeah.
But daughters-in-law.
Well, I have two stepdaughters.
That's true.
So
That's
I
right.
have had girls.
Yes. Now, so then you can say what's the biggest difference that you can see between Aaron and Danica, your stepdaughters,
right,
and Danny and Chris?
The girls shop with me and the boys don't.
This is a big difference.
It is.
And
it's
an
huge.
important one.
No, I think boys are very protective of their mamas.
Yes.
Yes. And they like to be with us.
Yes.
Whereas, and the girls do too. But I think there's
eventually
a point.
The girls.
Yeah,
do.
The girls do also. Their girlfriends become very important,
right.
And they come to us, with their when they have issues, they may talk to us. But boys are very protective, and they love being with us.
Yes, that's the truth.
Yeah.
I have found that as being the case as well. I mean, not that I have girls, but I am a girl, and I was a young girl one time, and I do remember my brother. Even now, you and I were talking about this.
Yeah.
He's a spoiled brat, as my opinion. He's like 51, and I still think he's spoiled rotten. And my mama spoiled him because it was always Mama and Scott,
We mamas step in to protect our boys.
We do, and vice versa. So there's a special relationship between mother and son,
yes,
I believe.
I agree.
As there is between mother and daughter, although I do believe the mother and daughter relationship will often not come to fruition until they're older.
Until they're adults, a lot of times, because then they understand what mama went through.
Right, and there's more of that. There's less of this and more of this as they get older. But now with boys, and I have a couple of scriptures I want to read in terms of being a mother of sons. And then I just have a few things I wanted to ask Heidi, and I'll comment as well. And if you have any comments, please feel free to go underneath here. There's a place for you to comment. Share your wisdom. If you've got boys, share it with us, because goodness gracious, we could all use some help.
Oh, yes.
And we'll be doing a series on, I think Heidi is going to actually do this one with us as well, on raising doing your adult children and parenting your adult children, and that's difficult too. So again, let's share our wisdom in this, and share our mistakes, and share the things we've learned. So please feel free to comment. So a couple of the scriptures that as I was praying over this particular show that came to me, first one was Ecclesiastes chapter 7 verse 9, that says, "Do not be quickly provoked in your spirit, for anger resides in the lap of fools." Now, I don't think that necessarily just applies to having boys. I think that applies to dealing with my husband most often. But it also applies to having girls and relationship in particular.
I was going to say almost any.
But with your boys, especially as a mama, because we don't really know where they're coming from often, because they're sons. And so getting frustrated and angry sometimes as a mother with the way your son is responding to you or responding in a situation is, again, a fruitless endeavor, but something that we may do, don't you think?
Oh, yeah.
Because you don't relate to them.
Yeah, it's different. I mean, because boys do think differently than girls.
They do.
And you have to learn how each child responds.
Yes.
Because each child is different.
That's right. That's exactly
Yeah, I had
right.
one that if you looked at him wrong would cry. Another one would stare me down.
Exactly, and you have to get, and that's true of all kids, but
Yes.
boys in particular, as a woman, we have to just really realize they're not going to deal with stuff the way you think they ought to, because they have that darn Y chromosome.
Yes.
And it just makes them crazy from the very beginning. The other one, next scripture I looked at was Proverbs 22:6. Train up a child in the way he should go. Even when he is old, he will not depart from it. And then, I know, me too. And then finally, Galatians 5:22-23. But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. Against such things there is no law. I think God laid those on my heart, particularly from this week, because the way I parent my boys is almost exclusively about how I relate to my father. Because if I don't relate as a daughter of God, then I'm not going to be able to parent as a daughter of God.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
And
yes.
if that relationship has to be the foundation for the way I deal with my boys, just like it does the foundation I deal with anybody.
Right.
And so I think though, raising my boys, the one thing that has probably been the hardest thing for me to come to grips with, and the most challenging, is to, as a mom, instill in them the ability to be godly men.
That's exactly
where you wanted to go.
Yeah, well, because it's what I thought about when you talked to me about this. Is I did not grow up in a Christian family, so I became a Christian later in life. In fact, Deb was a big part of that. And my goal was to raise my boys to know God from the beginning, and then at a point that they accept Him for their own, because they can't live under our umbrella of Christianity. They have to get their own.
Right.
So my goal was to get them to the point where, yes, this is where I want to be. And we, their father's huge, because the father is the role model for them.
Absolutely, yes.
And so, I mean, our boys went to church.
Right.
I mean, my youngest went to church in a Batman cape. I didn't care what he looked like. He was there, and one went in galoshes and cowboy boots, because, and so
people made fun
and
of
this was in the South, and they, and kids go to church dressed very nice.
Yes.
And I thought, I don't care. He's got his cape on and he's there.
Yes.
So,
and I think that's really important, Heidi, that we and I've said this to so many moms and women in the family, we really are the emotional anchor in a family.
Yes, we are.
The father, the husband is the head of the house. That's biblical, scriptural, yes. But as women, we emotionally anchor and steer our family.
I agree.
And so, men, our husbands as fathers are going to be that role model.
Yep.
But as far as the one who's going to spiritually steer our children, that's going to be the mama. And that's a big responsibility.
Yep.
It's not about being the head of them or even being that role model, as you said, with the men, but it is about steering them in the right direction and understanding that's your responsibility as a mom of both sons and daughters.
Yes.
But with sons in particular, they're going to look to their daddies. I know my boys have learned so much about how to treat women.
Yeah.
Who they should be by watching their father treat me in certain ways.
Exactly.
Now, but and they've watched Jeff learn, his scriptural, Jeff's path and the things he does, getting to know the Lord and whatever. My boys have watched that, so they are getting a whole lot of example from their father. But as mom, there are things that only I can teach them in terms of their spiritual walk. Can you think of any that you can think of that only you teach them, as opposed to your? I think our husbands can teach them, but I think we're better equipped because we're emotional beings.
I think we really help with the relationship with God.
Very good.
Because we're emotional, and they will see me weep because I was in the choir and I would cry through some songs.
You cry now through songs.
I do. And so for them to see that this is a personal relationship, it's not just, going to church, and it's not just knowing the words, it's feeling it and believing it and living it and walking in it.
Yes, very good. That's very good. That's exactly what I think. I think as women, God created us this way. He created us with the loving, emotional side of His personality. We, as both men and women, were created in the image of God, but I believe that men exemplify a certain aspect of God's character, whereas women exemplify another aspect of God's character. And so it becomes both of our responsibilities as husband and wife, mother and father, to exemplify those characteristics characteristics to our children. And so for us, it is the relation, because relationship's important to women.
Yes.
And often it's not as important to men, or it isn't something
It's
they
harder
focus
for them to
on.
get.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the loving part, the emotional part, that really does come from us.
Yes.
And our relationship with God, as you said so rightly, is that it's much more than knowledge. So Heidi, I want to ask you, what do you think, if you could sit your boys down, I know you've done this, so this is going to be easy, what is the most important piece of advice? If you could just choose one thing to tell your boys in terms of their relationship with God, what would be the most important thing you'd tell them?
To be true to what they know. I mean, to not, because life gets busy. They go off, and when they leave us,
Yes.
and they're on their own paths, and there's all this distraction.
That's good.
To stay focused on what they know is true.
Very good.
To stay focused on the Father, and never to deviate from
Yes,
that.
that's good.
Because they know that is true.
Yes.
Everything else can go crazy in their life. So stay true to what you know. I had a friend that once said, I know that I know that I know. And so they hear that now.
That's good, because they're going to be inundated.
Yeah.
When they leave us, they're inundated by the world. So that's such a good piece of advice. Stay true to what you know. Love that. So what would be the one piece of advice you would give moms of sons?
Oh, you have to be firm, but loving at the same time.
Yes, very good.
That just keep you also look down the path, look down the long way,
Right.
Because eternity is what we're looking at.
Yes, very good.
And for them to remember that when you're raising sons or daughters, to look what you're teaching them, that they're
Yes.
look down to eternity, to stay on that path, know what is true.
That's good.
And for us not to deviate from it.
That's good. That's good, because in that you are modeling Jesus.
Yes.
And you're modeling our Father.
Yes.
Because that's what He does. He loves us in a firm manner. He loves us with eternity in mind, and He keeps us pointed in that exact direction. That's excellent. I love my boys so much, and I can't really. I call them boys, and they're not boys.
I know, mine are
They're
men too, but I still see them as
they're my little boys, but. In terms of that, though, it's one of the greatest honor I've ever had, I think, is spend some miles as mama. I love them so much, and so and I know y'all do too. We love our children. That's what's instilled in us as moms, to just adore our children. It is important that we understand, however, that they're only ours for this amount of time, that they've been loaned to us to take care of, and that God trusted me with His children, that He chose me to mama Spencer Miles.
Yes.
I am not their mother accidentally.
Right.
I was chosen by God to almost foster parent.
That's a good way to think of it.
His children, and He chose me specifically to do that. So taking that seriously and understanding this is not a happenstance. Your children are your children because God knew you were the best person to take care of them. Your sons are your sons because you were the best mama to take care of them. That doesn't mean you're not mess up. Doesn't mean things are going to go wrong. You're going to do the wrong thing. Lord have mercy. I have done so many things wrong to and around my boys. That's not the point. I don't have to be perfect. But if I keep that in mind, I too can keep my brain centered on eternity.
Yes.
And what it is that's my job. So I pray this helps you guys. Again, I encourage you, comment below. Share all of your wisdom with all the rest of us, please, because we love to read it, and we love that you're here. And just say God bless you and have a great day. Thank you for joining me today on this episode of Real Life with Deb Waterbury. I hope it's been a blessing to you as much as it was to me. If you want any of my books or information on articles or any of my speaking engagements, you can go to my website at debwaterbury.com. God bless you.